Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Perfect. Thank you. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Srila Prabhupada. Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora Haribo. Jai. Thank you very much and welcome everyone to today's class. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. These verses all together. Narayana namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udirayat nashta prayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki om agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militanyena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. All right. So we are going to read today from Canto 11, Chapter 2, Text 42. Bhakti Pareshanubhavo Viraktir Anyatra Chaisha Trika Eka Kalaha Prapadyamanasya Yatashnatasya Pushti pushti kshudapayo nugasam. Bhakti pareshanubhavo viraktir. Anyatra chaisha trika eka kalaha. Prapadyamanasya yatashnatasya. Tushti pushti kshudapayo nugasam. Please chat. Bhakti pareshanubhavo viraktir. Anyatra chaisha trika eka kalaha. Prapadyamanasya yatashnatasya. Pushti pushti kshudapayo nugasam. Bhakti pareshanubhavo viraktir. Anyatra chaisha trika eka kalaha. Prapadyamanasya yatashnasasyus. Pushti pushti kshudapayo nugasam. All right, let's do the word for word all together. Bhakti, devotion. Padisha, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Anubhava, direct perception. Virakti, detachment. Anyatra, from everything else. Cha, and. Esha, this. Trika, group of three. Ekakala, simultaneously. Prapadyamanasya, for one in the process of taking shelter of the Supreme Lord. Yata, in the same way as. Ashnata, for one engaged in eating. Syu, they occur. Tushti, satisfaction. Pushti, nourishment. Kshut, apaya, eradication of hunger. Anughasam, increasingly with each morsel. Translation and purport by the disciples of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Devotion, direct experience of the Supreme Lord, and detachment from other things. These three occur simultaneously for one who has taken shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in the same way that pleasure, nourishment, and relief from hunger come simultaneously and increasingly with each bite for a person engaged in eating. Report. Srila Jiva Goswami has explained this analogy as follows. Bhakti, or devotion, may be compared to tushti, satisfaction, because they both take the form of pleasure. Paresh Anubhava, experience of the Supreme Lord, and pushti, nourishment, are analogous because both sustain one's life. Finally, virakti, detachment, and kshud apaya, cessation of hunger, may be compared because both free one from further hankering so that one may experience shanti, or peace. A person who is eating not only becomes uninterested in other activities, but increasingly becomes uninterested in the food itself, according to his satisfaction. On the other hand, according to Srila Jiva Goswami, although one who is experiencing the blissful personality of Godhead, Krishna, becomes uninterested in anything other than Krishna, his attachment to Krishna increases at every moment. Therefore, it is to be understood that the transcendental beauty and qualities of the Supreme Lord are not material, since one never becomes satiated by relishing the bliss of the Supreme Lord. The word virakti is very significant in this verse. Virakti means detachment, whereas tyag means renunciation. According to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the word renunciation can be used in a situation in which one considers giving up an enjoyable object. But by considering everything to be potential paraphernalia in the service of Lord Krishna, as described in the previous verse, one need not give thought to renunciation, for one uses everything in the proper way in the service of the Lord. Yukta vairagyam uchyate. The very pleasant analogy of a good meal is given in this verse. A hungry man busily consuming a sumptuous plate of food is not interested in anything else happening around him. In fact, he considers any other topic or activity a disturbance to his concentration on the delicious meal. Similarly, as one advances in Krishna consciousness, one considers anything unrelated to the devotional service of Krishna an obnoxious disturbance. Such concentrated love of God has been described in the second canto of the Bhagavatam by the words Tivrena Bhakti Yogena Yajeta Purusham Param. Bhagavatam 2.3.10. One should not make an artificial show of renouncing the material world. Rather, one should systematically train the mind to see everything as an expansion of the opulence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Just as a hungry, materialistic man, upon seeing sumptuous food, immediately desires to put it in his mouth, an advanced devotee of Krishna, upon seeing a material object, immediately becomes eager to use it for the pleasure of Krishna. Without the spontaneous hunger to engage everything in the service of Krishna and to dive deeper and deeper into the ocean of love of Krishna, so-called realization of God, or loose talk about so-called religious life, is irrelevant to the actual experience of entering the kingdom of God. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the path of Bhakti Yoga is so joyful and practical that even in the stage of sadhana bhakti, in which one follows rules and regulations without an advanced understanding, one can perceive the ultimate result. As stated by Srila Rupa Goswami, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.187, Iha yasya harer dasye karmana manasagira nikila swapyavastastu jivan mukta sa uchyate. As soon as one surrenders to the Supreme Lord Krishna, prapadyamanasya, giving up all other activities, viraktir anyatra cha, one is immediately considered a liberated soul, jivan mukta. The Supreme Lord Krishna is so merciful that when a living entity understands that the personality Krishna is the source of everything and surrenders to the Lord, Krishna personally takes charge of him and reveals to him within his heart that he is under the Lord's full protection. Thus devotion, direct experience of the personality of Godhead, and detachment from other objects become manifest even in the beginning stage of Bhakti Yoga, since Bhakti Yoga begins at the point of liberation. Other processes have as their final goal salvation or liberation, but according to Bhagavad Gita 18.66, Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam braja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma shuchaha. If one surrenders to Krishna, one is immediately liberated, and thus begins his career as a transcendental devotee with complete confidence in the Lord's protection. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So, I chose this verse because this is one of my favorite verses. And it's Maharaj Nimi meeting the 9 Yogendras, and we're hearing about the glories of devotional service. So, or the glories of surrendering, taking shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Prapadyamanasya. So, prapadyante means to approach. Literally means to approach. Pra means progress, to take positive steps. And pad means feet. So it literally means to take progressive steps towards something. And so when we surrender to Krishna, this word prapadyante, prapadyamanasya, means that we're approaching Krishna. We're taking positive steps towards Krishna. And that's what surrender is. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, I list the 6 processes of surrender, the 6 principles of surrender. So those are accepting what's favorable for the devotional service or the pleasure of Krishna, rejecting what's unfavorable. So these are taking steps, right? As we take a step towards, every time we accept something that's favorable for our devotional service, we're taking a step towards Krishna. And every time we reject something unfavorable, we're also taking a step towards Krishna, or at least we're not allowing ourselves to be pulled back a step from Krishna. And then accepting Krishna as our protector and maintainer. So when we accept Krishna as our sole protector, then we're just depending on Krishna in all circumstances for everything, for our protection, for our maintenance, and means we don't have to depend on anyone else. Because as soon as we think that there's someone else that's going to maintain me or someone else that's going to protect me in this world, then we lose sight of Krishna. And so Rupa Goswami says, Anya Bilashita Shunyam. The pure devotional service is free from any other desire. There's no other desire. So why do we desire other things? Because we think we need those things. Or we think those things are going to make us happy or protect us, or we need that for our maintenance. And the fact is that we don't need anything but Krishna. Because anyways, Krishna is the source of maintenance. Right? He says that in the Bhagavad Gita, that even people who worship the demigods, okay, the demigods bestow some gifts upon their worshippers, but he says that know that these gifts come from me alone. And the demigods are powerless without Krishna's empowerment. And the same with anybody else or anything else in this material world. It can only help us, so that person can only help us if they're empowered by Krishna. So ultimately, it's Krishna who is the one to be approached, the one to be taken shelter of. He's our protector. He's our maintainer. Unfortunately, because of our conditioning, many of us don't have faith that Krishna will maintain me. And so we think we need to do so many other things. But actually, if we just surrender to Krishna, then Krishna's got everything covered. He's the person who is the most capable of maintaining. Who is more capable than Krishna? And so, in the purport, it's recommended that we surrender to Krishna, we become immediately liberated, and begin our career as a transcendental devotee. So this is the career. This is our career. Of course, people may have their jobs or something. They may have a career in, medicine or engineering or computer science, IT or whatever. But those things are just circumstantial. Our real career is that I'm a transcendental devotee. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not an engineer, I'm not a carpenter, I'm not a plumber, I'm not a teacher. I'm a transcendental devotee. That is my career. That is my only career. And in that career, then there are many tasks that I have to perform. Just like you go to your work and you have different tasks that you have to do on different days. So as a transcendental devotee of the Lord, which is my career, then there are other tasks that I have to perform. But everything is for the ultimate pleasure of Krishna, because that's what it means to be a transcendental devotee of the Lord. So every task that I perform in my career as a transcendental devotee, whether it's taking care of my family, whether it's going to work, whether it's distributing books, whether it's leading a kirtan, whether it's cooking or cleaning the house or whatever, those are all tasks that I take up in my career as a transcendental devotee. And I do all of those things for the pleasure of Krishna and his devotees, because that's what it means to be a transcendental devotee. So this is our career. And it's the best career because look at all the great things that happen as a result of this career. Right? Devotion, direct experience of the Supreme Lord, and detachment from other things. Right? Tushti, pushti, kshudabhi. So bhakti, devotion. Para Isha, anubhava. Direct perception of the Para Isha, the supreme controller, the supreme personality of Godhead. And virakti means detachment. And we're hearing that they correspond to eating. So this everybody can relate to. That when we're a very hungry person, they're distressed because of hunger, and then as soon as they sit down in front of a big plate of prasadam, then it's like within a few minutes, your hunger goes away. So in the same way, as soon as we begin devotional service, then our material desires start to diminish. And the more we engage in devotional service, the more those material desires and attachments just fade into oblivion. And I'm sure that everybody has experienced that. So if you think back to all the things that we used to like to do before becoming a devotee, just don't think too much about it. But it's like you just, like Yamunacharya says, spit at the thought, right? Yamunacharya says that now that he's begun devotional service, the thought of having sex with a woman is just so revolting to him. He just spits at the thought. There's just no more desire. It's like, why? Why would I engage in such an activity? It's kind of like, ugh. So in the same way, a lot of things that we used to do before coming to Krishna consciousness that we actually used to kind of so-called enjoy, or at least get some fleeting temporary pleasure or relief from suffering from, after practicing devotional service for just a short time, just like, how could I have ever enjoyed that thing? Like, what did I see in that activity? So it just shows how bleak material existence is, that we were trying to just squeeze, a drop of juice out of some dry rag, or, chewing the chewed. Like, all the juice has already been chewed out of an old piece of gum, and yet we're just trying to squeeze something out of it. We're trying to get some enjoyment out of some moldy old stale bread or something. It's like, what? But it just shows, like, there's just nothing in material life. And as soon as you come to Krishna consciousness and you get the taste for devotional practices, then you realize that what you were trying to enjoy before was just nothing. In fact, it was just causing more and more distress. And that's what Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. Yehi samsparshaja bhoga dukkha yonaya evate adyantavanta konteya nateshu ramate buddha. He says that an intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery which are due to contact with the material senses. So when we try to engage our senses in enjoying the objects of the senses, it's not the cause, it doesn't bring happiness, it brings dukkha. It's literally dukkha yonaya. Yonaya means like the womb. So it's the womb from which dukkha takes birth. That's the analogy that Krishna uses. So on the other hand, devotional service brings satisfaction. So we get free from hunger, we get free from our material desires, and we also get satisfaction and nourishment. So when you eat, it's not just that you're not hungry anymore, it's that now you're energized, you've got fuel, you're ready to go. So when we perform devotional service with good consciousness, with that mood of surrender, like genuinely approaching Krishna with an intention to please Krishna and his devotees, then we become enthused, we become enlivened, and we become inspired to serve more, to do more, and we start feeling like there's not enough time in the day to serve Krishna. We just wish that we didn't have to sleep. We wish we didn't have to, take care of our bodies. We wish we didn't have to, do all these things because we want to serve Krishna every moment. Sometimes it's like getting late at night and I'm just like, why do I have to sleep? Why are my eyes starting to burn? Why is this body not able to just keep going and, be absorbed in something? Some service, and I'm just like, I wish I could have a spiritual body so I could just serve Krishna 24/7, but unfortunately we made a bad choice of accepting a material body in the material world, so we have to deal with its limitations for a while. But until we get to the stage where we're completely transcendental, like Srila Prabhupada practically didn't need to sleep, or the Goswamis practically didn't need to eat. Raghunath Das Goswami was taking like a little palm full of buttermilk every second day or something like that, sleeping an hour and a half each night. And it says that even sometimes that wasn't possible because the absorption in Krishna consciousness was too much. So this is the liberated stage, and this is the stage at which devotion actually begins. So it's nice how this verse, Sarvadharma Pratyaja, is discussed, because sometimes we explain it that aham tvam sarva papebhyo, that when we surrender to Krishna, we get free from our sinful reactions. So that's nice, we don't have to suffer our bad karma from our bad activities. But Krishna, he goes beyond that. He uses the word moksha. So it's not just that we become free from our bad karma, but we actually become liberated. We become free from the cycle of repeated birth and death. And all we need to do is surrender. It's just that simple. So yeah, we were going through the process of surrender. So accepting what's favorable, rejecting what's unfavorable, accepting Krishna as our soul maintainer, our soul protector, and then Atma Nivedanam, offering everything, offering our whole self to the Lord. That, Manasa Geha Deha Yoki Chumor Arpilun Tuapade Nanda Kishore. That my mind, Manasa, my body, Deha, Geha, my home. Home means everything. It means not just my house, but everything that goes with all of my paraphernalia, right? My house, my car, all my stuff, my gadgets, my bank balance, all of that goes with Geha, because Geha is the whole Grihastha ashram. So Brahmachari doesn't have, or at least not supposed to have anything. And Brahmachari just lives in the ashram of the spiritual master as the menial servant of the spiritual master and has no ownership of anything. Grihastha, of course, no one owns anything, but in Grihastha ashram, you have some things that you feel like, okay, these things are in my care, I have responsibility for these things. At least legally, I'm the owner of these things. So there's a sense in which you have things. But actually, so surrender means that actually, no, these are all Krishna's things. Everything is actually Krishna's, and I'm just a custodian, and I'm using these things in Krishna's service, in the service of the devotees. So Atma Nivedana. And then last one is humility, being humble. So humility means recognizing that Krishna is actually the Lord and I'm his insignificant part and parcel. And, real humility, it's actually a big relief. Because if we're trying to be someone great, be someone respectable in this material world, there's so much pressure, right? It's like you have to struggle so hard to maintain your reputation, and you always have to think about, how can I become known? How can I leave a good impression on people? And it's just a lot of pressure. But if you're just like, actually, I'm just an insignificant servant, and I can do any service for Krishna, and whether people appreciate me or even acknowledge my service doesn't really matter, because who am I anyway? And I just want to serve. I'm just a tiny little servant. And my existence is only really meaningful to the extent that I can please Krishna. So let me try to please Krishna and please his devotees. And the devotees are happier with us when we're humble. So it just all, reinforces the same quality. And it takes a big weight off our minds. And also humility is actually, ironically, the source of empowerment. Because as soon as we give up thinking that I am the master, I'm the controller, I'm great, I'm powerful, I'm wonderful, and we realize that the actual great, powerful, wonderful controller and master is Krishna, then that opens up the line for that actual great person to empower us, right? And call out for that help. Because as long as I'm thinking that I don't need Krishna, that I'm strong enough and smart enough and qualified and educated enough to do things on my own, I'm going to be limited by my own qualifications, which are limited, because I'm limited, very limited. I'm infinitesimally limited. But if we recognize, I'm just a tiny little insignificant spark, but Krishna's great. So Krishna, please help me. Please, you're the strong person. Please give me strength. You're the powerful person. Please empower me. You're the omniscient person. Please give me knowledge. You're the most renounced person. Please give me detachment. So we can just think of all Krishna's opulences and call out to him for support in our service to him. But if we're humble, we can't do that, because we think, no, I'm fine, I'm good, right? Like people, when you go on book distribution, you're like, hey, no, I'm good, I'm all right. Especially in England, they would always say that, I'm all right. So it's like, actually, we're not all right at all. We're not good. We're in a very bad situation in the material world, unless we're doing pure devotional service. So that's what this verse is recommending. And approach Krishna, take shelter of Krishna, call out to Krishna. And that's how we're going to get our nourishment. So nourishment means devotion. We get devotion. And that's, food is for the material body. So material body is made out of food. But the soul is made out of devotion. Right? In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that Shraddhamai, that the soul is made of faith. is literally full of faith. Prabhupada translates full of faith, but Shraddhamaya means that the nature, that's our nature, is that we are composed of faith. We're composed of devotion. And so the more we do devotional service, the more we nourish ourselves with devotion, the same way that the body is made out of food. The more we eat good food, the more we have good health. So the more we do devotion, the more we actually nourish our devotional spiritual bodies. And that's what he's talking about here. So, and then the last thing is para isha, that direct experience of the Supreme Lord. So this corresponds to pushti, nourishment, because it sustains one's life. Yeah, sometimes like, in Gayatri Mantra we meditate on Lord Chaitanya as Vishvambar, which means the upholder, the maintainer of the universe. So sometimes I think, how is Lord Chaitanya maintaining the universe? Of course, he's the Lord. So we know Lord is maintaining the universe, but why specifically Lord Chaitanya got that name of Vishvambar? And so I was just reflecting that, yeah, because he gave us the holy name. He taught us, demonstrated how to be a devotee. And so it's devotional service. It's surrender to the Lord. It's pleasing the Lord by performing the Yuga Dharma, in this case, chanting the holy names, that actually is maintaining this world, is maintaining our whole existence. And so our maintenance is based on this, having a direct experience of the Lord. So pratyaksha vagamam dharmyam. The beauty of devotional service is that we don't have to wait until the time of death to realize it, right? Just like he's saying, with every bite, you experience satisfaction, you experience nourishment. So with every mantra that we chant, every shloka every verse that we read, every class we attend, every book we distribute, every offering we prepare, we're experiencing. We get an increasing perception of the presence of the Lord in our lives, of the nature of the Lord. The nature of his name, form, qualities, and pastimes. He reveals himself a little bit more each time. And it's a gradual revelation. So yeah, it's all and it's proportion to our surrender, right? Ye yatam mams prapadyante, tam sataiva bhajamyaham. So it's in proportion to our surrender. And also, as we eat, we also feel happiness, right? There's pleasure in eating, especially when you're really hungry. So when we serve Krishna, we also become happy. We also realize our true nature, which is Satchit Ananda, a blissful nature. And I wanted to share with you something that I was reading from this book, Sri Chaitanya Chandramrita by Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati. There's so many nectarian verses in this book. It's like a super ecstatic book. And I'll just read this one here, which is verse 120. This is the translation. He says, Aho! So he's exclaimed. It's a very ecstatic book, and so Prabodhananda Saraswati is often using these exclamations like, Aho! Aha! Wow, this is like incredible. This is like unprecedentedly amazing. So he's saying, Aho, chaste ladies from aristocratic families are jubilant and laughing wildly in gay abandon, having abandoned their natural shyness. Those whose hearts are as hard as stones due to excessive sense enjoyment and sinful activities are melting all over the place. And illiterate persons, previously without knowledge of the absolute truth, now ridicule the educated society. All as a result of the most amazing and supremely glorious descent into this world by Sri Chaitanya Dev. So it's like, and the whole book is all about the glories of Lord Chaitanya and the effect that Lord Chaitanya has had on the world and continues to have on the world. So I just really like this verse because I just imagine these, chaste ladies from aristocratic families, when you go to India or here, there's many, very chaste women from aristocratic families, and they're very reserved and, modest and discreet and, like that. And he's saying that these chaste ladies are just like abandoning their natural shyness and laughing wildly and dancing with complete forgetfulness of, oblivious of social etiquette and customs. And Prabodhananda Saraswati is glorifying this, that this is the transformative effect of Lord Chaitanya's mercy. What Lord Chaitanya has given the world is something that enables us to throw away all of our inhibitions, to just transcend everything else, just like become oblivious to social customs and etiquette and just be merged in transcendental loving service of the Lord. So yeah, some people say that chaste ladies should not laugh loudly or dance ecstatically in kirtan, but Prabodhananda Saraswati is glorifying the influence of Lord Chaitanya, that even chaste women from aristocratic families are dancing wildly and laughing loudly. So that social etiquette may apply to everyone except Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Yeah. So 8:15. I'll open up for questions or comments. There's many things that could be spoken about here. Yes. Yukta Vairagya. Yeah, so this verse in the purport talks about the difference between renunciation and detachment. And that's one of the questions that comes up in the first verse of the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna asked the question, what is the difference between renunciation and detachment? And so Krishna answers that renunciation means giving up the objects of sense gratification, and detachment means not necessarily giving up the object, but giving up the desire to enjoy that object, like to get some material enjoyment out of that object. And that's a theme that's repeated throughout the Bhagavad Gita, is not to give up the thing, not to give up our duties, but to give up the sense of proprietorship, give up the sense of that I'm the enjoyer, that I'm the controller, that I'm the owner. So Yukta Vairagya works on that principle, which is recommended in Bhagavad Gita, that we don't give up the thing, but we engage it in Krishna's service. We see everything in the world as paraphernalia to be used in Krishna's service. And so, yeah, that's mentioned here, that when a hungry person sees delicious food, he immediately thinks, I want to put this in my mouth. I want to taste this thing. So in the same way, when a devotee of Krishna sees anything in this world, they immediately think, I want to engage this in Krishna's service. This is Krishna's property. This should be used in Krishna's service. Right? So like when we go out on book distribution, we see so many people and, they've got all this money and we're thinking they've stolen all this money from Krishna and they're trying to use it for their own sense enjoyment. Let us get this money and use it in Krishna's service. So we're eagerly, giving them knowledge, collecting donations, trying to engage Krishna's property back in Krishna's service as its rightful purpose. Yeah. So Yukta Vairagya just means connecting everything to Krishna. So it's not about rejection, it's about connection. Okay? And then it's just a question of, if you have something that you're not sure, how can I use this in Krishna's service, then seek guidance, approach a mentor, Diksha Shiksha gurus, and find out, So Yukta Vairagya is very practical, because sometimes we have things and we're still attached to them. We may still have a desire to keep that thing because I like it, because I want to enjoy it. So Yukta Vairagya, it helps us to break the attachment by, okay, you can still keep the thing. You don't have to give it away. Just use it in Krishna's service. And so it's a seamless segue to detachment, because it's gradually just, we're holding on to the object, but we're letting go of our sense of proprietorship over it gradually, right? Until the point comes where it's like, yeah, this thing is just Krishna's, and I'm also Krishna's. His body is Krishna's. It's meant for his service. Even my soul I'm just a part and parcel of Krishna. And this is my very self I'm Krishna's property. So everything is Krishna's property. And when we see the world that way, then we lose our sense of enjoying it, right? If you walk into somebody's home and you see something, it's their property. So you don't just pick it up and start using it, right? That would just be like wrong. So we see the world that way. Everything should be used in Krishna's service. Okay? Yes, bro. Maybe hold it. You want to just grab this one? Oh, got it.
Oh.
Sounds like you're good.
Yes, my bad. So in regards to this verse you were just reading, I was thinking that even in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita or Chaitanya Bhagavat, Chaitanya Mangal, for some reason neither does Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, Vrindavan Das Thakur, they don't give us descriptions of the chaste ladies, going out in public and, laughing out loud.
Dancing and laughing, yeah.
Yeah, it seems like they do it, but it seems like in their private setting they do it. Because of certain misunderstandings, we've seen that many Sahaja groups have come up during Lord Chaitanya's time, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's time. We see that many of these came up, and then using verses like this, it led to promiscuity of the opposite sex, which led to Vaishnavism being looked at as the worst possible thing. And it took Bhaktivinoda Thakur to revive it. So it seems like that verse also, he's speaking about the ecstasy that's experienced by these personalities. It was expressed out. It was expressed in private. We don't see any description of in Chaitanya Charitamrita any of the bona fide literatures about Lord Chaitanya. We even see it's even Janava Mata, who's the wife of Lord Nityananda. We don't see the description of her, going crazy or whatever we see. So it seems like there's a cultural context to that verse also. Yeah,
there's one description I know of in Chaitanya Bhagavat where it's talking about how Lord Nityananda, when he was traveling and preaching, so he would be dancing in ecstasy, and sometimes he would even
he would pinch the.
Huh?
Sorry.
He would get so ecstatic and become like this, so oblivious to everything external, that he would even take off his lower cloth and tie it as a turban around his head. He would be dancing like that through the streets of all these, going from every town and village doing Harinam. And so it's described there how all the people would be so swept up in Lord Nityananda's ecstasy that everyone, the whole village, men, women, children, old people, everyone would just join the Harinam party of Lord Nityananda, and they would just go with him. They would literally just leave their homes, women would just be following, and they would be leaving their homes, and then maybe after a while they would be oh, actually, wait, where are we? We need to get back home. But so the description is there that everyone, it was women, children, old people, old ladies, dancing in ecstasy, forgetting about everything.
Yeah, for sure. Everyone joins the Sankirtan party. There's no doubt about that. And it's welcome to everyone. There's no doubt. And we can see there's a description in the Chaitanya Bhagavat of Lord Nityananda walking butt naked into Lord Chaitanya's house, where he's with this.
Yeah. But I do get your point, because the thing is that the way the public sometimes perceive people dancing wildly, and we experience that too, right? In our Harinam parties, the way the public perceives us is sometimes are you guys on drugs? Or, they think that it's kind of crazy. There's people jumping around and laughing and jumping in the street. So, especially in the time after Lord Chaitanya's disappearance, then people started taking it cheaply and just being no, it's all just about dancing and being wild. And they weren't doing the sadhana, they weren't actually following the process that was given by the Goswamis, that was demonstrated by Lord Chaitanya. So that's why, it says that devotional service that's done without following the, Shruti, Smriti, Puranadi, the scriptures, is an unnecessary disturbance to society. So there's a difference between sahajiyas who are dancing in the street and not following the scriptures. There's a difference between that and devotees who are actually practicing sadhana bhakti according to scriptures, according to our founder Acharya, and dancing wildly in kirtan. There's a big difference between that. And we don't stop going out on Harinam because people think it looks kind of crazy. So, we're followers of Lord Chaitanya, and we follow in the footsteps of him and his followers.
Yeah, the only point I was making was that verse seems to have a cultural context. That's the point. But everyone should go out on books. Everyone should go out on Harinam. There's no doubt about that. That should not be stopped.
Yeah. Okay.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you. I thought you had your hand up. Yes.
Hare Krishna. Someone else?
Hare Krishna.
Mm-hmm.
Mataji, can I please know the 6 principles of
Speak louder, I
surrender?
can't hear you.
6 principles of surrender that you spoke about?
Yeah. Oh, the 6 principles? You want me to just list them again? So it's accepting what's favorable for devotional service, rejecting what's unfavorable, accepting Krishna as your protector, accepting Krishna as your maintainer, offering everything to the Lord, one's entire self, and humility.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare
Thank you
Krishna.
so much. I always relish your classes. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. So I was just remembering my spiritual master, Tamal Krishna Maharaj. As you all know, he was, a renunciate his entire life, had Radha Damodar buses traveling, all over the country making devotees. And then he inherited this community here in Dallas, a Grihasta community.
Right.
And so Shamali, many of you may know Shamali, the house that you all live in across the street was owned by Indranila
Mm-hmm.
and Radha Vinod, and they raised their children there. And so we were just at a program at Tulsi Saki's house. We have a Friday Sangha, prasadam distribution, beautiful Sangha chanting. And Shamali was there, and she was showing pictures of our spiritual master, Tamal Krishna Maharaj, teaching her how to ride her bicycle when she was a little girl.
Aw.
Walking in the neighborhood and holding hands with the children.
Mm.
So we can't see this in a mundane way. We have to see this in a transcendental way,
Yeah.
right? That this is a show of love and devotion without making distinction. These were all young devotee children.
Yeah.
And it's just an admirable thing to see. And the other point I wanted to make that he made often when he came here, he encouraged everyone, you can't all be living in the temple, as householders.
Yeah.
So you make your home a temple.
Mm-hmm.
And by keeping the deities, I have my Giriraj, my Gornatai, by keeping the deity, then you realize that you are Dasi Ani Dasi, Dasanu Dasi, you're a servant. And everything there is meant to, you're cooking for the pleasure of the Lord in your home. You're keeping it very suchi and clean, everything nice because the Lord is sitting in your home.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to, make that comment. That is, to me, that's a sense of doing everything favorable for the
Yeah.
Lord.
Very
And
good.
Hare Krishna, I just wanted to make those
Thank you.
comments. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much for sharing. Very good points. Yeah, and Srila Prabhupada said that grihastas who live like that are better than a sannyasi because it's more challenging in one sense, right? Because it's like, sometimes they say it's like fasting with a full fridge. So if you're a brahmachari or a sannyasi, then, there's no opportunity for sense gratification because, you're just, it's just, there could be an opportunity, but you'd have to sneak off and make an arrangement, and it's risky, and you lose your whole reputation, and whatever. But for a married couple living in the home, when they close the door, behind closed doors, anything can happen, right? And you have full opportunity for sense gratification there. You have money, you have home, you have privacy, man and woman. It's legit. You could do whatever you want there. But the fact that you don't, the fact that you control your senses, you have sex for conceiving children, you do everything you can to raise those children in Krishna consciousness, the husband and wife serve together, you still wake up early in the morning, just like you did when you were brahmachari and brahmacharini in the ashram, you chant your japa together, you do a little puja, or you come to the temple. If you live near the temple, you come to the temple morning program. So that's better than so brahmacharya ashram is like kind of like a artificial restriction. That you're like, okay, I don't want to engage with these things. I just want to totally focus. And so it's good, you're accepting what's favorable for Krishna consciousness because that's what you need. And it makes your life simple so that you can, facilitates doing perhaps more direct service, or at least a particular kind of service, if that's a kind of service you want to do. But then Grihastha ashram, it becomes complicated, right? There's many different things that you need to do, and that's all, like I was saying, that's all part of your transcendental career of being a devotee. But there are more options, and there are more opportunities to choose something other than Krishna's direct service. So then the Grihasthas have to be very strong and very determined, and a Grihastha that can live a very pure life in Grihastha ashram is a very exalted soul. What's that? Yeah, so everything you do in the temple, you do it, you make giwiks in the temple, you make giwiks for your deities at home. The same thing when I got married, my husband and I were just like, you know what, we are not going to get outside jobs, we're just going to serve Krishna. And I was doing book distribution in the temple, like full-time Sankirtan devotee for 5 years before getting married. And I thought, well, we're maintaining the temple by book distribution, why not maintain the family by book distribution? So then we decided that. So that's all we did. We just did book distribution. We raised 2 children, and we didn't even have to do it all year long. 2 months out of the year, book distribution, the donations we got from that, just on the street, person to person, and we just saved that, and then we were able to spend the remaining 10 months in Vrindavan. We raised our children in the Holy Dham. They went to school in Sri Dham Mayapur. My daughters are both like one initiated, the other aspiring, and chanting 16 rounds for the last several years, and living in the ashram at Bhaktivedanta Manor, and everything worked out so well because we made that commitment that we're just going to serve Krishna. We're just going to depend on Krishna, accept what's favorable, reject what's unfavorable, accept Krishna as protector, accept Krishna as maintainer. In the beginning we were traveling in a Sankirtan van with a small child, and one day, we were walking, my husband, I was out on book distribution, my husband was taking care of our daughter. She was 2 years old, and so we were walking, after Sankirtan we had to go to the supermarket and buy them some things, and our daughter was getting tired. So she looked at us and she said, let's go back to our van. And it was just so funny. I just burst out laughing because when kids are tired, they're like, can we go home? And she was like, can we go back to our van? That was our home. That was the only home she knew, was the Sankirtan van. So she spent first few years of her life just living the Sankirtan van, going from town to town and taking her morning bath with a gallon milk jug of water in the parking lot. And we were living like that, and it was so blissful, so ecstatic, and Krishna just provided everything. So, yeah. Yes, Prabhu.
When Prahlad Maharaj met the famous Python Brahmin, you know the story?
Yeah.
Python Brahmin was called that because he was like a python. He didn't go anywhere, he didn't do anything, and somehow his maintenance came his way, and he was living rather opulently. But sometimes it seems, in reality, people have money and have wealth because they really worked hard for it. 16 years of education, got a master's or a PhD.
Yeah.
And then it's Monday morning, so they're logged in 8 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
Not, sitting here talking philosophy, but actually making a lot of money, and they have huge houses and
Yeah.
everything that what everybody wants in life.
Mhm.
So why is this the depend on Krishna thing? This doesn't seem to work for everybody. We depend on working on getting educated and working really hard.
Yeah. I mean, it's a question of faith, right? So people are at different levels, and even Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, he says that those, he said, don't disturb the minds of people who don't have such strong faith by telling them to stop working. So they still need to work. Everyone needs to work. It's whether if you can either work directly for Krishna, engaging in the 9 processes of bhakti and accept Krishna as your maintainer, or you can work at a job and get a regular salary and be maintained that way. So, but either way, everyone's going to be maintained according to their karma, right? So for one who's not surrendered to Krishna, then their level of income and their standard of living is a result of their karma from previous activities, right? But after we surrender to Krishna, then all of that is it's up to Krishna, right? Because we're hearing that when you surrender to Krishna, you get free, you get liberated. So you're no longer limited by your past karma. And so Krishna just takes care of you the way he sees fit. And even if your karma was to be rich, but Krishna has other plans for you, then you won't be rich. Or if your karma was that you would be poor and Krishna has other plans for you, then you may be very wealthy. But Krishna will give us exactly what we need. So that's why the safe thing is to just surrender to Krishna and accept the life that Krishna chalks out for us. Of course, karma is also under the control of Krishna, right? That's also Krishna's system, but it's a little more restricted. So the safer thing is to surrender to Krishna, put our lives in Krishna's hand, depend on Krishna in whatever ashram we are, whatever situation we are, just always depend on Krishna. And even if we do have a job and we're living off a salary that we get from an outside job, that's okay. Just see that that's coming from Krishna too. There's nothing that's not coming from Krishna. All wealth comes from Krishna. He's the source of everything, right? Aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvam pravartate. He says, I'm the source of all material and spiritual worlds. Everything emanates from me. And then the wise who perfectly know this, do what? Engage in my devotional service. So just understand that everything is coming from Krishna, and I'm a servant of Krishna. And then life becomes very simple and very blissful. Is that okay? All right, anything else? Yes, Mother Nandini.
In that regard, when all the wealth and the opulence is, oftentimes people think, well, I'm the doer. This is great. I created all this wealth. I'm wonderful. And then when the wealth is taken away, oftentimes the materialists may say, curse God, or say, why me? But I have a dear friend who's been extremely wealthy, multimillionaire, very successful, and somehow or another, the business is it's eclipsing, it's going down substantially. Mm-hmm. But this particular person has taken complete shelter of Krishna, reading, chanting, so maybe in the heyday of his day, he maybe didn't think at all about Krishna. But so that's the difference between association. This is through association that he has realized, wow, now is the time. Krishna's taking everything away from me. Mm-hmm. So let me now turn to Krishna. So yeah, that's kind of a wonderful thing, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's Krishna's mercy, right? Krishna says that in 10th canto, he says that the first installment of his mercy, for one who has received his special mercy, the first thing he does is he takes everything away. And then the person is left with nothing. The family reject him, right? Materialistic people at least reject him. And then he has nothing left to do except take full shelter of Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada quoted that verse in relation to himself, right? Because he was, as a grihasta, he was working, he had a, very lucrative business, and then all of a sudden it just, by a series of unfortunate or fortunate events, Srila Prabhupada basically went bankrupt, So, because Prabhupada had this notion that my spiritual master has given me the instruction to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world, I need to earn a lot of money. So in one sense, he was doing it, for Krishna. He was being responsible as a grihasta. He was being responsible as a disciple, strategizing for how to fulfill his guru's order, and trying to accumulate resources for that purpose. But then Krishna was like, no, this is not, you don't need to do this. He said, everything that you've earned through your business is gone. And he just brought him down to, financial zero basically. And then Prabhupada just totally said, okay, I surrender, take sannyas, travel to a foreign country. And then Krishna gave him back everything, and even more, so much more, much, much more. So that shows that when we depend on some, external source for our maintenance, then it's limited and it's insecure, right? Most people have jobs, they're insecure. They're worried about, I could get fired, I could get laid off, I could get made redundant, I could get whatever. What if I have some accident or injury? I won't be able to do my job. So there's a lot of insecurity with outside employment. And rightly so, because it is, it's unknown future. But when we take shelter of Krishna, then we can be absolutely secure. And Krishna will show us, he'll reward us for that. And it's no longer limited by, what some mundane employer can offer us in exchange for our skills. It's unlimited because Krishna is unlimited. He's got all the wealth, right? And he can give all the wealth. And like he did to Prabhupada. So he showed us the example of Srila Prabhupada. He showed us that, okay, if you want to, do some external business, then, you can, might work for some time. And it may come to an end, like all good material things, so-called good material things, must come to an end, right? Adyanta vanta means they have an adi and they have an anta. They have a beginning and they have an end. So, but Krishna's mercy never ends. It's unlimited and it's without end. And we see that in the life of Srila Prabhupada.
I just want to comment that this is the first time I realized the difference between renunciation and detachment. So thank you. It was such an eye-opener. So thank you for that.
Jai. Okay. Are we good? Everyone satisfied? Tushti, pushti. Oh, yes. Which years was I a Sankirtan devotee? 1992 until 2017. Scared? Yeah, I mean, there were times when it was a little scary. Like we were sleeping in the van one time, and this was when I was with the ladies, just Vaishnavis. There were 3 of us in the van traveling, and we were sleeping in a parking lot in the city center. And then some people came in the middle of the night, and they were trying to break the windows of the van. They were pounding on the windows of the van with a hammer. They didn't know that we were in there. They were just thinking it was maybe it was a van, so they thought maybe there's good stuff inside. They were trying to break in. So then for a minute, I was like so scared. I was the Sankirtan leader at the time, so I was just like, oh shoot, this is gonna get bad real quick. So I immediately just like jumped up, grabbed the keys, and started the engine, and just like peeled out of there, like squealed the tires out of there. And then we looked back, and those guys were like, and we just started laughing. We were literally laughing. It was like 2:00 in the morning, and we started laughing our heads off at the faces of those guys. Yeah, and then. So then we were driving, it was like 2:00 in the morning, we're driving through this city. So we got pulled over by the police because they were like, it was suspicious, you know, this like weird van just going at 2:00 in the morning. There was no cars, it wasn't like Dallas, it was like a small town in England, and there was no other traffic on the road. So they were like, can I see your license, insurance, all this stuff. So we were all good, we were legal. And then they said, what are you ladies doing out here? And we were like in our pajamas, you know. So it looked funny, and we said, and then so we told them and so it was Krishna's arrangement, because we were able to. I wasn't going to call the police on those guys. I was just like, let's get out of here. So we were able to report that there were these, you know, there's an attempted like break into the van. So hopefully those, you know, people got arrested, or at least cautioned. So Krishna takes care. Okay, Jai. Traveling Sankirtan ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol.